Hello everyone, welcome back to True Life Tales. Today's story is a classic case of what happens when a neighborhood Karen gets a little too much power and zero common sense. Imagine waking up to a fine just because your car isn't pretty enough for your neighborhood's taste. Well, that's exactly what happened to one homeowner who decided that instead of backing down, they were going to follow the HOA rules so strictly that it drove the president insane. This is a story of malicious compliance at its finest. Let's dive in.
I've lived in this suburban neighborhood for 5 years. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone's business, mostly because our HOA president, let's call her Susan, makes it her full time job. Susan is about 60, always wears a sun visor, and carries a digital camera like she's a private investigator looking for a crime. I'm a car guy. I work a corporate job, but on weekends I like to get my hands greasy. Recently, I found my dream project, a 1984 Chevy Silverado. It was a mess, peeling paint, a rusted hood, and seats that looked like they'd been through a war. But the engine, it was a masterpiece. I parked it in my driveway, planning to start the bodywork the following weekend. Monday morning, 7 a.m., I'm having coffee when I see Susan through my window. She's standing at the edge of my driveway, hands on her hips, taking photos of my truck. 10 minutes later, I get an email notification. Subject: Immediate action required. Violation of community aesthetic standards. The email was a masterpiece of passive aggression. It claimed my truck was a visual nuisance and was actively lowering the property values of the surrounding homes. Attached was a $50 fine. I decided to be nice. I walked over to Susan's house. She opened the door before I could even knock. "I knew you'd be here," she said. Not even inviting me in, I explained. "Susan, it's a car project. I'm fixing it up. It'll be painted in a month." She laughed. That cold Karen laugh. A month? That eyesore isn't staying there for another day. Our bylaws say no damaged or non-operational vehicles can be visible from the street. Move it or the fines double every 48 hours. I went home and checked the bylaws. She was right about the damaged part, but then I noticed something. The definition of damaged in our 40-page HOA handbook was extremely vague. It mostly referred to broken glass, flat tires, or leaking fluids. My truck had none of those. It was just ugly. By the end of the week, the fine had reached $200. Susan had even started calling the local towing company, but since the truck was on my private driveway and not the street, they couldn't touch it without a court order. That's when I decided to go to war. I realized that the HOA rules allowed up to 5 operational registered vehicles per household to be parked on private driveways. There was absolutely no rule about what those cars had to look like as long as they were street legal. I called my cousin, who runs a scrapyard. I told him I need the four ugliest, most dented but still running cars you have. I'll rent them from you for a month. 2 days later, a flatbed arrived. One by one, he dropped off the fleet. A 1990s minivan painted in three different colors of primer, a sedan with a bright pink hood and a missing bumper, an old work van covered in faded peeling stickers, and a rusted out hatchback that smoked a little but run like a champ. I lined them all up in my driveway right next to my Chevy. Monday morning was the highlight of my year. Susan walked out of her house, saw the junkyard next door, and I think her brain actually short circuited. She was screaming on my porch within minutes, "What is this? You are destroying this neighborhood." I walked out calmly with a copy of the bylaws. "Morning, Susan. I took your advice and read the rules. All 5 of these vehicles are registered, insured, and operational. They have no broken glass, no flat tires, and no leaks. According to Article 4, Section 2, they are perfectly legal. I'm just starting a collection. She tried to fine me for each car. I appealed it to the HOA board. At the meeting, the other neighbors, who were also tired of Susan's nonsense, actually started laughing when they saw the photos. They realized that if they sided with Susan, they'd be giving her the power to decide if their cars were pretty enough too. The board voted to waive all my fines. Susan was so embarrassed she resigned as president 2 weeks later. I returned the rental cars to my cousin, kept my Chevy, and finished the restoration in peace. And that, my friends, is why you always read the fine print. Susan thought she could bully me into getting rid of my truck, but she ended up losing her power instead. My Chevy looks amazing now. By the way, bright red and shiny, just to remind her of her defeat every time I drive past her house. What's the craziest HOA stories you've ever heard? Or do you have a Karen in your neighborhood? Drop a comment below. I'd love to read your stories. And if you enjoyed this too, hit that like button and subscribe to True Life Tales for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.